Unavailable. No.
Hi everybody, it's Sam. Today is Tuesday, February 26th. It has been a crazy day. So, yesterday, I knew Dr. Cleary was coming in today. We didn't know who was on the list, either me or Jesse. So today we got up and our morning was really crazy because we slept late, and so we didn't get meds till we didn't get breakfast till like 8:30. And then the med line was crazy. We can't stand in that med line because you get knocked over. People don't move for you. You have to walk around people because they're just standing there in the middle of the hallway, not even halfway in the line, halfway out of the line. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Even Jessie trying to guide me is like, even she would get knocked over, So that's why we do the thing of us coming either early or later for meds. So I talked to nursing at that early today about my seroquel because it's been working good, except for the fact that I take it at 7:30, which is when I go for early meds. Yeah, I get knocked out at 8:30, or 8 o'clock, and then I wake up at like 3 in the morning because I've already had 8 hours of sleep. And so, I was thinking, take it later, but I didn't want to run to that huge med line. But Chris said, director of nursing is Chris, he said, you can take it later, and Annie, who's the nurse on our side most days, will let you into the nurse's station. And by the time it gets to 9 o'clock, theoretically, that line should be down. However, this morning, there's this one nurse who's like well known for going super slow. And sometimes I think she does it on purpose because she's bitchy. They were also calling the hospital this morning and everything was crazy. But still, the meds should be done at 10. And by the time we got them, it was like 10:15. So we waited and waited for like an hour down there. So anyways, with the list, Jesse was on it, and then I had wanted to talk to Clary because I was going to see him anyways, probably next week, because they do it every month, and they're very, strict about the every month thing. Pretty much the same time of the month every month, talking to them. So I knew it was going to be, and this month is a short month, so whatever. I knew it was going to be, next week, and I figured I'd just talk to him about how the med was going. Talk to him about, I'd tell her that I was going to take the med later. And then tell him that it's helped a lot. It has helped, but that I've still sensed things. And I'm still feeling things, coming in me. And the thoughts of these beings, coming to me and saying disturbing, violent things. And things like that. I was going to tell him and see what he had to say. And then I also was going to ask if, he knew anything about like a therapist, which I doubted because even his hospital doesn't have anything for therapy. And I was also going to ask him about what's written on my diagnosis. So I was like, okay, this will be good to meet with him and do that. So we waited and we finally got the meds. But we had to stay downstairs all morning. And usually in the morning, we're in and out downstairs, and then we're up, I take my nap and... but I handled the sitting down there pretty good. I can't wait to get that Braille voice note, Braille, whatever, working and up and running so I can have that to read. Because I don't want to play my player downstairs where everybody is, talking or what. I don't want. So anyways, so I saw him and it was just the worst appointment ever. So what happened was, I told him how I was doing. I said that I said the medication was helping and that I was going to take it later, and he agreed, but he's like, those times are really odd, like 7:30, 8:30. He's like, is that the time you guys do meds? And I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, yeah, I agree about the people, like, they won't even look up to see if I'm, that I'm right there. Like, they just stop in the middle of the hallway, and he brought his dog with him, and he's like, yeah, they kick my dog, and they pick it up, and so I was like, oh, I'm sorry. But so then, and his dog was there. His dog was so cute. He was like one of those little poodles, and he had him in like a fleece jacket. And I was like petting him while he was bad mouthing another resident's care, or I mean another resident that came before me, and calling him, names like sissy, and he's a drug seeker, and who knows what else. That was horrible, and I was just a fly on the wall. I was like, oh, I'm gonna listen to this. Like, this is important for me to hear, that this is what this guy is like. I couldn't imagine what he was gonna be like after I left today. Anyways, I told him about how things were, and so I said, it's going good. I said, but I have still been sensing things, the people standing behind me, having these thoughts in my head that aren't mine, and, and I explained about the thing that happened earlier in the week, which I'm not going to say because it would probably be triggering. I know it would be triggering. But it was a pretty serious thing that I was told or put in my head. And even though I knew that it wasn't obviously true and I wasn't going to follow what it said, it's still there, and that was really disturbing. And I'm like, well, I don't want that to keep happening, and so I want it all to go away, not just, part of it, because other than the meds, the only thing I can do to cope is distracting myself. And there's a limit to how much you can distract yourself from talking people in your head and people touching you that aren't there and everything else like that. So, I told him about that, and I don't know if that prompted him to decide to raise my med and just jump there. But all of a sudden he said, I could put you on a more potent form of seroquel. And I just thought that meant like raise the dose. Like, stronger form to me means like higher dose. And I just didn't, because he said potent form of seroquel. I was like, okay. And so that I didn't even think to ask if it meant other med, which, long story short, it did. He put me on zyprexa. I don't even know, zyprexa. He put me on the zyprexa, which is a stronger med in the same class of meds. So that's what he meant by more potent form of seroquel, which is totally not what you tell someone. So I found that out at 5 at night. I'm wicked anxious about it because I had no idea. And I felt like I was used to the seroquel, used to the side, I wasn't having the side effects, many effects anymore, and it did help. I just needed a little bit higher of a dose. And you do that with a med when you first start. You do it for a few weeks and then see how it goes in your system, and usually they raise it a little bit more, but they start with the lowest dose of it. And I just thought that's what he'd do, but he didn't even tell me. But instead, he decided to tell me. Oh, so then I said, I've thought about seeing a therapist, I said, and I asked him if he knew of anything, and he's like, no, he's like, my hospital doesn't do anything, really. And I said, all I know is Masonic, which is a hospital down across the city, basically. And I was like, okay. And so then, we were talking, and I asked him, because I had asked nursing what was on my chart for diagnosis, because I wanted to know. And it's major depression. And so I said, okay. I said, I know. I was like, I wasn't, because I hate to like sound like I'm demanding stuff, because I am so articulate on this different stuff. I don't want to sound like I'm like going over their head and telling them what to do. But at the same time, I want them to do something, and I want them to know that I know what's, that I know my own mind. I know what's off and what's not, and that I need some kind of validation for, what I've been going through, and something put down besides depression, basically. So, but I wasn't going to say that. But it took me a long time of thinking about it in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, because Seroquel woke me up at 3 a.m, to think about how do I say this, nicely and kind of as if I don't know more than I do, So I just said, I said, I'm just curious, I'm just curious. I know you said depression, but I said, based on all the symptoms that I'm having, and that I've had for the past year that you know about, would you add anything to that, And he said no, and then he says to me, well, depression is psychosis. Really? Yeah, say that again. Depression is psychosis. I have never heard of that in my life. If anyone else has any thoughts on that it makes sense to them, yeah, I'd like to hear it, because I never heard of that. And he was just saying, well, this stuff is like, it's just phenomenon. It's not like, it's like people experience it, and it's not that bad. It's like, it's just like, it's anxiety. It's, just whatever. And, everything he had to say was so dismissive on what is really going on, to the point that I keep saying, I kept saying to him, I have been dealing with this for a year by myself with my friends, amazing friends, shout out, you know who you are, but by myself in terms of figuring it out. And I'll tell you about what I think about the whole diagnosis process at this point, but basically, I didn't even say like what diagnosis I wanted. I was just saying, would you add anything to that it says depression? And I guess him saying that depression is psychosis would mean that, no, I don't want to add anything, basically. So I guess that was his answer. But then we got into him saying, well, you can't go from saying you have multiple personalities to saying you have schizophrenia. I said, I didn't say I had either of those things. I did not say I had either of those things. What happened was, I was experiencing the blackouts, first of all, and the saying I'm these other people. I was experiencing, those were the first big things. And, it did seem like voices in my head. It always felt like outside beings coming into me, but it was presenting as if I was saying I was these other people. It was a very complicated thing, and I don't doubt that. So all of a sudden I was having that, and people that saw me having it basically were like, I don't know what to do. I'm not even going to talk to you about it. I mean, that was the reaction. They just saw it, and they're like, nope. Albany Care had that. It was mentioned in the hospital that I might have multiple personalities. But then the next day, the psychiatrist there said it was bipolar. So I have no idea. And that was the hospitalization where the psychiatrist, my actual psychiatrist, supposedly hospitalized me and then didn't even know I was hospitalized. Like, somehow I got hospitalized and stuck there and then come back, and they didn't even know I was hospitalized. But anyways, and that was the reaction after, the first 2 weeks of these symptoms. And and that was a crazy time, though, because my caseworker was leaving. It was such a fast turnover case. It was a crazy time. But what I'm saying is, people that saw the symptoms either said they didn't know what it was, or this sounds like a dissociative disorder. This sounds like the dissociative multiple personalities, basically. That's what it sounds like. And because it sounds like that, we can't help you. We don't have the skills, blah, blah, blah. So that was the thing of like what it started. I typed in to, if I just objectively saying, type in, blacking out and talking as if you're another person, and that you're not yourself, whatever. It comes up dissociative multiple disorder. It comes up with that thing. There's, you type it in and that's it. That's what comes up. And there's no denying that, because you're just typing into a computer. And that's what I was reduced to, me and my friends, especially Jess, just putting stuff into the computer and seeing what came up. That's it. So I wasn't going around saying I want to have multiple personalities and this is what I know it is, and I wasn't even half with it half the time because I was blacked out. So whatever was going on in my head was talking, and I wasn't even around, basically for the most of it. So there was that. And then, as that kind of disappeared, because it did, the whole, those people, and that was a whole other story with my friend helping me on a spiritual sense, which seemed to calm that down. I still was sensing, these beings around me, these outside, like I said, what felt like outside forces, the talking in my head and in my ears. So I was still sensing it. And so, and I knew it wasn't, that this multiple thing wasn't going to be, explored. He basically said it wasn't that disorder. So I said, okay. And so again, I typed in, because it was different then. After I was worked with on the spiritual side of things with my friend, it was a different thing. It wasn't the same thing as before, because I wasn't blocking out as much as hearing stuff in my head, and I was feeling like I was being taken over physically and things like that. And so I typed in those types of things, and psychosis came up. Wouldn't you know? And it's the same thing that I put in the thing into the computer, and that's what I got. So, and then the more I was looking into psychosis, the more I was reading about it and hearing, people saying, do you feel like you're being taken over by whatever and that your body is being taken over? Oh, yeah, I do. Do you feel like you have, I feel like I'm different people in my head. Oh, yeah, me too. Do you feel like, someone's touching you and you don't, but there's no one around? Oh, yeah, me too. It's like everything that I've been going through. Basically, do you feel like that you're getting thoughts in your head that aren't your thoughts, and they're not your thoughts, but they're like beaming at you and telling you to do things? Yep. Every single thing was on this thing. And I was like, okay. And so I just told him about it objectively. I just said, this is what's going on with me. And then he said, last time I saw him, he had said, okay, well, it's not normal for, it's not common for people to have the onset of this older, because I'm 30 and this started when I was 29. So he's like, it's not common for people to have the onset of this. And of course he said this. And so I said, what do you mean? He's like, the psychosis. I was like, yep. I said, okay. He said, it's not common, but he said it could happen. I said, okay, whatever. I didn't think much of it. But then when we were talking about it, he was just saying, oh, it's phenomenon, it's it's just general, who knows, everybody deals with this, and it's not any, it's just part of depression, it's just part of anxiety, it's, and so then we're talking, and he's like, oh, well, so it's not really a psychotic disorder because you're too, someone with that would get it younger than you got it. I said, okay, so I'm above the age limit because if this happened 3 years ago, it would have been psychosis disorder. And it just kills me, and for him to say, oh yeah, you can't jump from those diagnoses. I'm not. I'm trying to put what I'm dealing with in some kind of perspective, mental health wise, so maybe I can get at least the meds that I need, which is, I think that based on how the seroquel was going, it is addressing these sensory things. It's addressing them. So I'm taking this med, and it's for psychosis, so whatever you want to say is whatever you want to say. But anyways, so he was saying that, and then he said, and this is the worst part, he said, you have a fascination for collecting diagnosis. And I said, how dare you? And I burst into tears. I said, how dare you say that about me? I said, you don't even know me. I said, I have told you everything I've gone through in the past year, how it happened, what happened, how nobody, evaluated me. That's what I need. And that's what I needed from day one. An evaluation, not a diagnosis. An evaluation. Okay, this is me, Sam. This is how my life has been up to this point. Bang! One day, had a panic attack. Bang! Next day, saying you're other people, blacking out for 2 weeks. Oh my goodness, that sounds like that could be pretty important. That evaluation of, oh my goodness, she can't, she's having trouble speaking, she's having trouble taking in information, what is going on? What do we do? How do we evaluate this? That's what I needed. And living in a mental health facility, that's what I would have expected. That if they didn't know, they would find somebody that did know. And that they would take it seriously, and they would be committed to help me get through it. And it's a long story that especially I expected that from Jonathan, but so he knows that. I told him that several times, and I've told him what I've had to do this whole year, which is me figuring it out with my friends. And he knows that, and he knows how bad the caseworkers are here. And he knows there's really not much choice of finding even a therapist, never mind with whatever my deal is. And I said, how dare you say that? I said, I am not. I said, that's the last thing that I would be doing. All I want is for this to be over. I want to get on the right med, feel good. I have been feeling good on the seroquel, which is why I didn't want it raised. Feel good, be on that med, get solid and confident again, so I can feel like myself. I can concentrate on moving back east, finding better doctors, finding better care, hopefully, and being my confident self that I was before December 17th or whatever of 2017. That's all I want. I am not somebody that wants to be sick for attention or whatever. That is not me. And anyone that knows me knows that's not me. I went through my depression and my anxiety. I came to terms with it, and I have been working with it. Whatever this means, of why I take this pill, I'm coming to terms with why I take this pill. I mean, this pill is to help me, calm down and quiet down whatever is going on in my brain that's causing these sensations and experiences, which is that's the most objective thing. These experiences of that don't feel okay to me, or yeah. Anyway, so I was so mad. And I was just crying, and I was like, you don't even know me. He says, oh, well, I know psychiatry. I was like, that's great. Whatever. And so I just said, okay. I said, fine. Whatever. I said, you want to talk to me like that? I said, that's fine. I said, I will just do what I do and go off and keep doing what I'm doing. And he did say, at least, which I do understand. He said, well, I am giving you medication for like what I'm saying is going wrong, which that sounds kind of like obvious. Of course you'd give the person medication, but with some psychiatrists there's an opposite problem to people that are feeling like they're over medicated. Some psychiatrists just don't give the medication, and maybe they have their own reasons for it. And I think that if the person is working with a therapist and the psychiatrist, probably a lower medication is probably better. But if all you have for the support, for the real treatment of what's going on is the medication, it's important to have that be a central thing. So with him, he often, doesn't change the medication. So for him to change my medication was a big deal. And the only time that he changed my medication, he finally changed it, was when I was talking about what I talked about last month, with him about the hearing things and sensing things and everything else like that. That's when he did change. I had talked for the past year with him about, my other issues and just saying my symptoms and whatever, and he never did anything. So for him to change my med and to initially change my med was a big deal. Him changing my med to another med, that was a big surprise. So he did say that. And so I was just beside myself. I was so mad, and I was like, you have no idea, And so Tasha came by, and it was really crowded, and so I started to tell her what was going on. And then she says, well, you need to talk to Lakeisha. And I said, no, I don't. I said, I am not talking to Lakeisha about this. I said, because I don't trust her. She says, who do you trust? And honestly, the answer is the director of admissions, the director of nursing. A couple of caseworkers that I see walking by seem like nice people, but I don't know. Some front desk people seem nice. That's it, Like, I don't trust social services as a whole because their whole attitude is blank slate. Don't make any kind of connection with the person, and don't show that don't have a relationship, therapeutic. Just be a blank, boundaries, whatever person. So, and that's a whole other thing that I have talked about. But I thought she'd insist that I see a caseworker. She didn't. She had me talk to Chris. So, and I also got I got an Ativan, and that did help. So I went in, I was thinking, I'm not going to talk much to Chris about this. I mean, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I had talked to him before about my symptoms, and, he was an amazing guy. Amazing guy. Very honest, very good with, really, really, truly cares. Shows he cares. And I'm not, and that's what's important. And so I sat with him, and I ended up sitting with him for an hour. And it was the best hour I've ever had in this place. I was able to just cry and be frustrated and say how horrible I felt that Cleary completely dismissed me, and he agreed. And, that how I've been this whole year, what has happened, how I've had to keep everything to myself because I can't trust, people that say they're not even going to try to connect with you. I've had to keep everything to myself, and I just cried and talked to him and said everything that's been going on, and said, I can't, and I told him about the little intro from Jessica, that she seemed like everything was so, oh, we're going to help you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then it was the complete opposite in the blank slate. And, what's good is he has an outside perspective because he's not in social services, and the departments are so separate from each other that they really don't know what's going on, in spite of having meetings every day. They really don't know what's going on with each other. And like Chris even teased, he's like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on in the upstairs kingdom, which is like Jessica's area. She's the evil queen. So, and he listened, and I basically was able to tell him, I understand that this boundaries thing is, important and whatever, and maybe it does work for a lot of people here. Though he did say that his wife was a social worker here like 4 years ago, and he said that the same things had been going on then, and that people were having the same complaints about not feeling cared about and not feeling, like they were really being supported, and caseworkers were just like not even helping. So if it happened 4 years ago, then I don't even know. It must be something that, I don't know if it's where the school that this woman came from, this Jessica, or there's a resident that said that things were really a lot better before Jessica was the director. I don't know, and then who knows? I don't know, but everyone has the same complaints. The caseworkers don't connect. They don't give, two shits. They don't. And it's completely, just horrible. And I said, I'll grant you that. Everyone needs a different thing. And I finally, and I got the message that this blank slate thing is their across the board method. And they don't vary from that. They don't, or can't, I don't know, use the attitude that each person needs a different thing. This is the thing, and that's it. So I kind of got that, in depth just through talking to him and him listening and him telling me, what he knows about it and everything else like that. And me saying to him, that doesn't work for me. And, him saying, that their whole premise is, the client shouldn't be dependent on the relationship being kind of the healing element because that's not healthy, because they're already dependent, weak boundaried people that have to be, closed off in some little weird boundary box that, whatever they think. And he says, because, staff do change and you can't, blah, 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 blah. And, I said, I understand that to a degree. I didn't, to a degree, I was compromising here. I said, I understand that, but I said, for me, and it could be just me. And I did speak for, I said, for me, with the trauma that I've had in my life on relationships in family, growing up with whatever professionals, I need that relationship to be the basic element of working on my mental health. I don't care if it's a caseworker doing something or a therapist, because Jessica made this huge distinction about, the therapist, in the therapist role, you open up more, they encourage that connection, and when you're a caseworker, you're not encouraged for any of that connection, and they're more distant and pulled away. And I was like, okay, but she was right, because this girl Jenny, I loved her as an intern. She was great. She listened. I felt great around her. And Jessica goes, when Jenny is a caseworker, she's going to be different. And I said, she's not going to be different. She's too much of an authentic person. Well, she was right. A couple months later, Jenny is nice. She walks around like she's on eggshells. She talks like she's, careful with every word she says, and it's totally not her, and it's totally sad that to get a job, you have to act like you're not even who you are when 2 months ago you were able to be yourself in a healthy, way versus this unhealthy, stale, artificial, weird thing. So, I don't care what kind of professional it is. I need that relationship to feel like I can even open up and not just say it, because I can say anything in my head. I can say anything, but to really express my feelings, and be vulnerable and have my feelings, because my trauma has always been about people cutting me down and putting me down for being upset, for crying, for whatever, when I'm at a point where I couldn't control it. And that's why I self-harmed, because I needed something to control it. I needed something to stop me from continuing to be overwhelmed, because I felt like people around me literally could not take it. And that I was being a burden, or I was upsetting them, and they were attacking me for not, for acting like this, and I couldn't stop. So that was where my whole cutting started. But, and I told Chris about that too. And so I said, I need to feel like, I don't want to go home with these people, but, I need to, and I said, it's like you and me, we're sitting here, we're talking about this, I'm asking you questions about, does he know anything about therapists? And we talked a little bit about other facilities, like does he know anything about the other facilities that Jesse and I were looking into? And just going over things and talking about things. I said, that's all. I need. And then I feel good to continue talking. That's not so much to ask. That's a basic thing for any professional. That's just a basic thing. And I think he got that, because I think he really did understand. And so, and he said, we can't, he says, I don't think we can provide that, what you need here. And I said, yeah, you can. And this was the most honest, good, we can't meet your needs, you can't meet my needs conversation that I've ever had. Because it was honest on, this is what we're providing, this is all we can do. And me saying, well, what you're doing can't work for me. And it's, and I need something different. And them saying, well, I'm sorry, we can't, we can't change on this. We can't, we can't do anything different than what we are. It's like, okay, well, for that thing, I can't get the thing that you're offering here in terms of, their form of support. And that doesn't mean that I need to move. I mean, I've been here a year. I mean, it's just, and what he said was that, the bottom line is that they are there to support us. And I believe that this place is doing the best it can. I believe these places are doing the best that they can. I do believe, because I've never seen someone so intent on it and convicted on it, I do believe that these people, that Jessica, Sarah, whatever, they believe that this blank slate thing and this super boundaries, distant thing is the right way to do things. Because they are you can tell they're like passionate about it. They're passionate about not showing their feelings. But they show it when they talk about this, and I do believe that. I believe that, other staff don't really know what's going on and whatever. But yeah, I mean, I believe that their form of support they are giving. What she believes is their form of support they are giving. And unfortunately, that's not what I need. And I absolutely wish that there had been honesty around that. Because if there had, we might have stayed at Albany. I don't know. Because I was facing Clayton with the perspective that I was like, I know my symptoms are weird. They're overwhelming. And I don't know if, the place I'm at is struggling. Can you deal with it? And she said, oh yeah, absolutely. We're trauma informed, which is the biggest lie in the world. We're happy to help you with this, and absolutely, we'll connect with you, we'll do this. If they had said, so I try to think of how Chris would say, it sounds like you're going through a lot of really hard stuff that's really complicated and difficult. Unfortunately, we don't really work with these issues. We don't work in the way that you need, because I talked a lot about the relationship. I talked a lot about the connection being important. And she also said back to me, yeah, the connection is really important. But if say if I was writing to Chris on this, if he said, it sounds like you need to feel, a lot of connection and a lot of support, and you need a lot of, one-to-one, really in-depth, every day, talking, checking in on these, whatever. We don't provide that, and we don't want to tell you we can do something that we can't, and that's always what the whole excuse for people saying, oh, we can't meet your needs on being blind is, because and that's the thing. They don't, their belief is we don't want to tell you something that we can't prove, we can't do. And so this is the most, like I said, this was the most honest and true, we can't meet your needs, you can't meet my needs discussion. And it was wonderful that we had that honesty. And it just means, and he said, keep doing what you're doing. He says, because I said, I have to keep it together. I keep things to myself because I can't be vulnerable. I can't be at people, the social services mercy about, oh, now she's saying, let's say I was upset and I was agitated and I said, oh my God, there's a ghost inside me and it's saying blah, blah, blah. And I was crying and I was pacing and I was, whatever. And the person would say, oh my goodness, you said that there's a ghost and that they're telling you X and Y? Well, if they're telling you this, that means that you could do this thing. And if you could do this thing, you're not safe. So you need to go to the unit. You need to be on one-to-one, whatever. I don't want to be at their mercy, so I have to keep it together. And that's just the truth. And I think he understood that. And I said, too, my trauma has always been about, what got me out of the depression, suicide breakdown, and cutting, it was creating that relationship not only with Jonathan, but with several different caseworkers. And I had changes in caseworkers because one of his arguments was, well, what happens when the staff change? I was like, well, I said all the caseworkers at Albany Care, by and large, believed in connection over a blank slate, and they had you work differently with each person policy, and we never had that problem. And he kind of laughed. He's like, yeah. He's like, he was just an honest guy. So anyway, I told him about it and how it worked, and that, like I said, that my whole trauma was about, that people were putting me down, and I felt truly attacked emotionally, and I could not, and that the solution for that was not sitting and looking at a list of coping skills for why are you cutting, and you need to stop cutting, and that's it. It was really going into, we need to have a safe place where you can cry and be upset and know that you're not going to get hurt emotionally, and we'll figure it out, and that people do care, that they show caring no matter what, and that they're committed to helping you. They're not someone that's going to just write down notes on a piece of paper or say some stupid thing, that hurts me and be upset that I'm upset. I need that. If I don't have that, why trust someone? Especially when you've been, totally taken advantage of, betrayed, knocked down emotionally, whatever, your whole life. Why? And even in the beginning, I couldn't trust Jonathan forever. And it took a while in all the caseworker relationships for us to build trust. But it happened. And we could do everything based on that. And I wasn't hanging off these people. I wasn't dependent on them to the point that I was, I couldn't do anything and function without them. But it was that foundation that has to be there for me. He listened. I think he just, I don't know if he totally agreed with it. And I know that he just said, I am really sorry that you don't feel like you're getting the support that you need here. And that they are trying to be supportive in the ways that they know how to be supportive. And that was such a good discussion. I mean, it was. The more I'm talking about it, the more that I'm just realizing what an amazing talk that actually was. So, that was good, because it changed my perspective. I calmed down about it, and to talk to somebody that works here, that's worked here forever, that even had his wife working here, And he said too that he says you wouldn't like my wife. She had the really firm boundaries too. And I was laughing, but I don't know how to get it through their head. You absolutely need to have boundaries first of all, and have your clients know about that up front. And if there's changes, whatever, you're not their friend. But second of all, caring and showing commitment and investment in this person for however long you work with them, 2 weeks, whatever, is not equal to being unprofessional. And that's where they're stuck, or that's where this theory is its whole point. The whole point of it is saying, in order to be a professional, you cannot show anything of, yourself, or, your reactions, your anything, and the boundaries and whatever is most important. If you don't do that, then you are unprofessional, and that's the biggest lie. But, like I said, the talking about it was a huge thing, to have someone on the outside that knows what it's like from his point of view, from having his wife work here, and also is honest about, hey, I don't know how the social services does things, and the unspoken thing is I can't really influence it. It's like she said, it's the kingdom upstairs. I mean, they're literally, Jessica and Sarah and all of them are on the 5th floor, which is you can only take the elevator up to the 4th floor. You have to take a flight of stairs, which is really creaky and spinny and unsafe, up to this 5th floor. So they're literally inaccessible physically, never mind emotionally, And so they are in their little, and even like this one CNA, she says they're very cold up there. So yes, they are. So it was the best discussion, and it was the best thing that could come out of this, because it did change my perspective. I felt heard. I felt like I understood their point of view more on this, and that it's my sort of choice, to keep going. I think, like what he says, I know that you're dealing with so much inside. And he said, it was funny. He said, stress is a killer drug. I said, yeah, probably is, and he has showed true compassion and everything else. So I do have him to talk to, but again, the boundaries, I know he's in nursing, he is the director of nursing. So for me to have that conversation with him was probably a rare thing. I'm glad I did it. I mean, I could have just kept things to myself. I think I would have come away from it more just angry and upset about the whole, how Dr. Clary treated me, and had no other, no other goodness come out of it, but, it was good, but I guess I'm just going to keep going how I'm going. Sort of knowing where they stand means that I know that they can't do anything different than what they're doing. And, how important is trying to establish those connections where I'm living, right now? Or is it something that I, can sort of hold out and live here in spite of not having the core support, which is for your mental health, which is the social services, or do I consider moving to another facility? I asked him about, he says he knows a lot about Margaret Manor, or Mado Health as it's now called. He knows a lot about Mado Health. He says that they're a lot quieter and they're at a slower pace, which Clayton is pretty revved up. We have all these people in their 20s and bouncing around and screaming and everything. So, the first question I'm going to ask if I were to interview at another facility is, can you change your caseworker? Because it was that, and I asked him, I said, do you know how that even happened? He says, no. The signing it by room. He says, no, I don't know. So I don't know. It's something that I'm going to keep working on. It's, I'm not going to try to fight a system that will not change, that cannot change. But I'm also not going to try to fit myself into their box of I'm okay with them talking to me in their way, because I'm not, you know. And at least Tasha was sensible enough to, and sensitive to letting me talk to Chris instead of insisting I talk to Keisha. At which point I would have just said, I'm fine, Keisha, have a nice afternoon. And even, like, I guess she was supposed to come later today and talk to me about it. She didn't. I wasn't about to go chase her down. You know, it's funny because even Chris was surprised. He said, oh, well, you know, Keisha knows all the different, like, therapy things and, like, therapist people on Medicaid. So you should talk to her about it. I said, Chris, I talked to her about it a couple times. I said, every time I talk to her about it, she says she doesn't know. Call Masonic. Call the hospital. That's it. She doesn't know. And that's what she said. She just says she doesn't know, and that's it. And he kind of like, he was like, he like sighed and he was like, okay, that's not helpful. Like he really, I think that surprised him that she acted like that because he has this thing where he thinks that, you know, that Keisha is a good social worker in spite of the whole boundaries thing. And I'm not quite sure what a good social worker means if you're not establishing any kind of connection with the person. Especially since, you know, they don't even do like the advocacy part where they call these different agencies and help you get the services. They don't even do that. Jessica said, oh no, we don't do that. We could role play how you can call someone, but we don't make those phone calls. So if your job as a caseworker is to establish a relationship with the person and help them through their symptoms and help them connect with resources, and you're not doing either of those things, what are you doing? You know, why are you getting paid? So that's, you know, but hey, you know, like I said, my outcome is that I'm glad that I had that meeting with him, you know, and it did help bring some peace of mind. I'm glad that, I'm not glad about this, you know, I only found out at 5 at night when I went to nursing to ask about what my new dose of seroquel was, to find out that I had actually zyprexa, whatever. And so I'm kind of nervous about it. I'm afraid I'll have like reactions, but because I was on seroquel in the past, so I knew how it was going to affect me. I don't know how this is going to affect me, but it should be fine. So I will talk to you guys later. If anyone wants to comment about like their thoughts on like, you know, psychiatrists or people being told that you're, you know, wanting diagnosis when you really just want treatment. You know, whatever you want to talk about. Okay. Bye.
Inbox. My movie. Web. Stop button.